The future of the ocean is looking dark. Satellite data shows that more than a fifth of the world's oceans darkened between 2003 and 2022. And that trend is having severe consequences for marine life that rely on sunlight, which accounts for the vast majority of species in the ocean. So joining us this morning with more is Paige Hoel. She is a research oceanographer with UC Santa Barbara. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. How are you?
I'm doing great. Fascinated to learn more from you this morning. We know about 90% of marine life exists in the upper layer of the ocean where the sunlight is still accessible. So how does sunlight play an important role for so many species there?
Yeah, so when we're talking about sunlight in the ocean, we're in the photic zone. We label this as the photic zone. And it's important for animals there because, you know, just like on land, we need light to start the food chain. We need light to start those primary producers. And so in the ocean, we refer to this as phytoplankton. And so when we reduce the amount of light available, there's much less places for those primary producers to go. So as our photic zone gets smaller and smaller and smaller, our primary producers have to go higher up in the ocean, and the area that they're available to live is smaller.
Okay, so we know what's happening. Let's get to the why. This new study shows the darkening trend is evident across 75 million square kilometers of ocean. And just to put that in perspective, that's equivalent to the land area of Europe, Africa, China, and North America combined. So we're talking about a large swath of the ocean. But what do we know about why it's getting darker?
Yeah, this is the really key of the problem. So there are a couple different sources for this. The first being an increase in phytoplankton blooms. So those primary producers we were just talking about, phytoplankton, when they bloom, they shade the area underneath if they're blooming in large enough quantities. And so what we've seen in the most recent years is an increase in human nutrients running off into the ocean. So these are things like agricultural fertilizers, for example. And as we get an increase in nutrients, those phytoplankton, which need two things, light and nutrients, to grow, are growing in such large quantities that they actually shade the area of ocean that are underneath them. So we believe it's these increase in human nutrients and also just an increase in organic matter, little particles in the water column, as we change around our food web as things get hotter and conditions change. These particles are less efficiently consumed, and so it leaves more to shade what's underneath.
What happens if this trend continues?
Yeah, great question. So essentially, we'll get a continuing shrinking of the photic zone, but also another effect that's important to consider is all of our mammals that really rely on sunlight or moonlight to migrate to breeding grounds and things like that. So it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen, but what we know for certain is that this area in which life is contained in the ocean is just going to get more and more concentrated at the surface.
Is there anything, Paige, that can be done to reverse this trend of ocean darkening?
Yeah, money question right here. So the main thing is to start curtailing these agricultural fertilizers and just put effective measures in place so that if they do run off into the ocean, they do not make it very far, and we're able to kind of curtail them at the source. So curtailing our human nutrients is really the most major thing that we can do, and this also includes our human sources of sedimentation. So large amounts of construction on coastlines, for example, can kick up lots of sediment. Other factors could also include deep ocean mining. So this was another thing that's been coming to the table recently in oceanography. This increases sediment in a huge way in the ocean, would also cause a significant amount of darkening.
Research oceanographer with UC Santa Barbara, Paige Hoel. Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie.